Picture this. You're on a hillside in northern Israel a little under 2,000 years ago. You have been listening to what will become the most famous sermon in human history. And the speaker, Jesus, is about ready to tie everything together as he's been sharing these life-changing truths and calling his listeners to action. Here is his final exhortation. In Matthew 7, verse 24, he says, "Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell. And great was the fall of it." Now, we hear this and we talk a lot about just building ourselves firmly on the solid rock. But it's important to understand how the sand plays in this too. Now, to help us understand the context more fully, when we think about being in northern Israel, when we think about hearing these words as Jesus is speaking them, you have to understand that the sand through most of the summer months around the Sea of Galilee would be really solid. But then as the rains came and the winds blew, the sand would shift around and it would erode and it would sink, and your house would not be built firmly. If you wanted to build a house on solid ground, even on that sand, you would have to dig down until you could build your house's foundation on the bedrock there. If you don't build your house on a solid foundation, everything will fall apart. We are called to build our house on the solid rock. That home, it's the place where we live our lives from. It is the foundation for everything we say and do. Every decision we make is based off of that foundation. Every addition to the house, every room of the house, the ceiling, the floors, the walls, every piece of furniture in the house is all dependent upon that solid foundation. Would you rather have your entire life built off of something tried and true that will stand throughout all of eternity, or something instead that you're just kind of like, it could go either way, 50-50. It doesn't really matter which way this ends up. Anyone with common sense would choose the solid, tried and true, tested and persevering truth. We would choose the solid foundation. As Jesus is finishing his sermon of explaining all of these things that his followers will do, he says, "Anyone who follows me and does these words of mine is like the wise man who builds his house upon a solid foundation." So that when the winds come, when the rain falls, when the storms arise and shake the foundation of those around us and the ground around us, our house remains standing firm. That leaves me with one question for you. When the rains come, when the wind blows and the waves crash, will your house remain standing? If you don't know, if you want to dig deeper, if you want to find out how to get your house built on that solid foundation, if you want to make sure your roots are in the right spot, we would love to have that conversation with you, and we would love to help you on your journey.